Purpose of this video is to explore the symbolism of Vanitas art. Vanitas art began in the 17th century Dutch Baroque era as a subgenre of still life paintings. We'll explore today 3 paintings, one from Haarlem in the Dutch Republic and one from Spain, and then another that is contemporary. All Vanitas artwork deals with the brevity of life and the pursuit of vanity. Occasionally, these paintings also deal with religious themes like a call to morality or the resurrection of Christ. The first painting is by Jan Moniz Moliner. It's called Allegory of Vanity. The first thing that you'll notice in this painting is the balanced composition. The woman and her servant are balanced by the woman's son and the painting above his head. The majority of the color in this painting is earth-toned. And you'll notice that puts emphasis on the people in the painting because they're wearing bright clothing and it contrasts with the earth tones on the walls. This painting is of a woman and her servant. Her servant is doing her hair, and the woman has a small child that she's largely ignoring. The child is blowing bubbles. They're in a very nice room that is ornate with lots of detail on the walls, and there's a table with tapestries next to them that is rather messy. On top of the table, there are some items. There's a jewelry box. The jewels are overflowing out of it. There's a makeup brush and a makeup container and an overturned basket. On the ground, there is a monkey. He's wearing a leash, and she's resting her feet on a skull. There's an instrument called a virginal next to the little boy, and behind that, there is an open door, and a shadow is cast on the wall opposite the door, and it kind of looks like it might be death. In all of Vanitas paintings, there's a lot of symbolism, and a lot of that symbolism is recurring throughout each one. So now I'm going to tell you what the symbols are and what they mean. So you'll notice in the background there's some plates on the wall, and above that there's a painting of a landscape. The plates on the wall could be indicative of wealth. They are on display. The painting that hangs on the wall is definitely an indication of wealth. In the 17th century in the Dutch Republic, there was trade. A lot of trade was happening in that area, so the people that benefited from that amassed great wealth. It really made it so that a lot of people could buy art. And it appears that painting is a landscape, which is another form of art that was popular in that time. On the walls behind the couple or the duo of people, there's a lot of musical instruments. I tried to find all the symbolism for the instruments, but basically the basic symbolism is the symbolism for musical instruments, which is that it's largely a worldly endeavor. Everyone enjoys music, they seek it out. Going back to the tapestries on the table, those would also be imported. So they would also be a status symbol or a symbol of wealth. On the table itself, the jewelry box open with the jewels, that's another status symbol or a symbol of wealth. There's a makeup brush and a little container that looks like it might have had makeup in it, which would be a symbol of vanity. And is actually holding a mirror and holding a ring. The ring would be a symbol of wealth, and the mirror would be a symbol of vanity again. But it's really important to point out that the little boy is trying to show her a bubble, and it looks like she's ignoring him to look at the viewer. A lot of times these paintings are made to serve as a reminder to pay attention to what's now because tomorrow isn't promised. And it is possible that exchange between the mother and son is part of that. The bubble itself, or the bubbles themselves, are actually indicative of death, or more so the brevity of life. As soon as a bubble is blown, it pops, it's very fragile, it's gone, and then there was no trace of it. There's a skull underneath the woman's foot. The skull is the most fundamental symbolism for death. At the bottom of the table, there's a monkey with a leash. According to Google Arts and Culture, that is to symbolize man's willingness to sin. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that there's a kind of an exaggeration in the folds of the woman's clothing. That's really indicative of the Dutch Baroque era. In Spain in the Baroque period, they were also making Vanitas paintings. This one is called El Sueño de Caballero, or The Knight's Dream. There's an angel and she's holding a banner, which translates to eternally it stings, swiftly it flies and kills, which basically means life is hard and then you die quickly, referencing the brevity of life. The composition of this painting is also very balanced. You'll notice there's a minimal background, and that's something that the Spanish Baroque artists have in common with the Italian Baroque artists, that the background is kind of dark and all the emphasis is on the characters on the scene in the foreground. It's not quite tenebrism, the light isn't that dramatic, but it's almost there. Again, we have a messy table, as is very common in Vanitas painting. There are skulls there, again, reminders of death. Notice that there's armor and weapons and things of that nature, and those are really indicative of a pursuit of power and also like worldly pursuits. Just like there's the globe that it also symbolizes a worldly pursuit, the flag is also indicative of a pursuit of power. There's a musical instrument in this one too. It looks kind of like a violin or some other stringed instrument. In this case, because it's laying down and looks like it was just left aside, instead of it symbolizing the worldly pursuit of music, in this case it would symbolize someone was there to play it and now they're gone. The brevity of life. There's a lot of reminders of wealth with the jewelry box and the jewels and the rings and the purse open with coins. The man is dressed very nicely. All of those things deal with wealth and the pursuit of wealth. We talked about the skulls, but there are other symbols of death in this painting. There's a snuffed out candle indicating something that was there that is now gone. Again, the brevity of life. There's the clock. Clocks always symbolize the passage of time, which also could remind you of death. There's books and also written music on the table, which would symbolize the pursuit of education or worldly things. In this particular Vanitas painting, I don't believe that the mirror symbolizes vanity. I think the mirror in this case would symbolize self-reflection. Unlike the painting from the Dutch Republic, this painting also has a few reminders of the resurrection. The angel, for one, is a reminder of God's mercy, and then the laurel wreath would be a reminder of resurrection. The flowers also symbolize death. There's a mask in this painting, and it's unfortunate, but I was unable to find out what that was there for. I'm guessing it's either pursuit of the arts or it's just a personal thing that the artist added to the painting. Some of the symbolism for these types of paintings we may never know. To add compositionally, you'll notice that there are brush strokes that are visible in the angel's wings. Now for something a little bit different. This is by Audrey Flack. It's called Queen. The painting was made between 1975 and 1976. It's postmodern. It's photorealism or hyperrealism. The colors are highly saturated. She used a lot of primary colors in this. The composition is very crowded and kind of chaotic, as is often the case with Vanitas paintings. This one, the viewer is looking down on it instead of looking across. Let's get into the symbolism. There's fruit and cut fruit, which generally symbolize death and decay. There's a rose, which generally symbolizes death as well. You really get into that hyper-realistic style when you see the little dewdrops on the rose. Pocket underneath the rose has a self-portrait of Audrey Flack and also a portrait of Flack's mother. I believe this is a symbolism of death because it shows women in two different cycles of their lives. The rose, there's an empty makeup container, and I think that that also symbolizes death because it was full and now it's empty. The cream underneath the locket and the cream underneath the lip gloss could also symbolize the futile nature of trying to stave off death. But the lip glosses and the rouge themselves are vanity. The compact mirror behind the playing card is also vanity. The paint bottle above the apple is worldly pursuit. The playing card, the dice, and the chess queen could also symbolize worldly pursuit. I think the chess queen is most fascinating because she's laying down. If you were playing chess, she would be dead. The locket itself could symbolize wealth. However, you'll notice that the religious symbolism or symbolism of the resurrection do not exist in this painting, and that's largely because Flack was Jewish, so in her religion, the resurrection didn't happen. Interesting to see how the symbolism of Vanitas has been used throughout time and region. Nares relied heavily on moral obligation, which was really indicative of living in Protestant Dutch Republic. Whereas Paredes, the knight's dream, had the viewer reminded of the salvation of Christ and his resurrection. Paredes' piece is more indicative of Catholic Spain. Flack's photorealistic piece didn't use religious symbolism at all. In conclusion, futile nature of pursuits of vanity and the brevity of life are themes that are universal. Thanks for watching this video. I tried to make it as short as I could. I know you have a lot of these to watch, so thank you.